It was so corrupt from early on with Epstein. The corruption we're seeing now, it's been there since day one. Something's not right about this. Do you remember that Elon Musk tweet about how Donald Trump was actually in the Epstein Files and that's why they're not going to release them? You see, it turns out there is no list. That blew your mind, didn't it? How could he be on the list when there isn't one? FBI review finds no Jeffrey Epstein client list. Confirms suicide. So that means he wasn't supplying powerful people with underage girls, and he also wasn't killed by said powerful people in jail before he could testify that he was helping them. So that wraps everything up in a nice little package, doesn't it? Just put a little bow on it and everything. Nothing to see here. Move along. Now, I know a lot of you are still sort of, you hear the name Epstein, you don't know exactly the full story. I'm going to bring you up to speed right now so that you're really deep just how fucked up this situation really is. Jeffrey Epstein was an American businessman who was worth hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars. He owned multiple islands. He owned property in Florida, New York, Paris, Mexico. He owned multiple planes. Now, there is minimal record of where that money came from. He was a financial advisor to a billionaire for a period of time called Leslie Wexner, who apparently he stole like $50 million from. But even then, his time working with Leslie does not account for the bulk of the wealth that Jeffrey Epstein accrued in his life. Now, by now, you already know the guy was a sex trafficker, confirmed. And there is a theory that some of his money came from trafficking young girls to powerful clients who would then obviously pay him in return. And there's also another theory that he was also blackmailing those clients from the trafficking of girls to also get money out of them. And that's not the only theory, right? There's suggestions that he was also taking information from these powerful clients, feeding that up the ladder to organizations like Mossad, which is Israel's national intelligence agency. Potentially they were paying him for that information and giving him protection in return. Who knows at this point? The point is it's widely regarded that his money did not come just from legal shit. And it seems like the trafficking started for Epstein for his own personal pleasure. Like, the guy is a predator. And the way he would acquire these young girls is he would get someone else to go to them. It wouldn't be him making the approach a lot of the time. Like Ghislaine Maxwell, for example, his right-hand woman who's now in jail for helping him do all of this. But it wasn't always Ghislaine. Sometimes he would take a victim, say a young girl who he'd come into contact with, and he would get them to go and get more young victims for him. So, for example, he'd say to the girl, if you get me another girl, I will pay you £200 to £300 per girl that you bring to his house to give him a massage, because that was sort of the code for how we would initiate the sexual contact. And because young girls, you know, a lot of these specific ones he targeted, they needed money, they were desperate. The local schools are near, you know, where he lived became a hunting ground for him. And there was one girl alone who said that she'd acquired 40 to 60 other girls for Jeffrey Epstein. And you imagine each time one of those girls comes through the door, he's then getting them to recruit even more girls for him. And this turned into a sexual pyramid scheme for Jeffrey Epstein, something the likes of which the cops seem to have never seen before in their life. And that is one of the reasons why the number of victims is so fucking enormous. I mean, they say there's over 1,000. And he was getting these massages multiple times a day. So it would always be like, another girl, another girl, another girl. It was insane how this was going down. And obviously, when he would get ones that he liked more, he would keep them in the fold with him. He would promise them loads of opportunities as long as they were loyal and kept their mouth shut. And when one of the girls finally came forward to the police about this, it uncovered an avalanche of other girls who'd been sex trafficked by Epstein. And this is sort of where you see the level that Epstein was on, that he wasn't just any other criminal. He knew he was being investigated, which is kind of taking away part of the police's biggest strength, right? Them knowing and you not knowing and them being able to see the mistakes you're making allows them to get data on you. He wasn't going to let that happen. And he actually had his own team of private investigators investigating the cops who were trying to investigate him. They were digging through their trash. They were following them. He was not afraid. If anything, he was ballsy as fuck. Like he had nothing to lose, and maybe he knew why. And after all that investigating that it took place on, you know, him being with these underage girls and everything he'd been up to, Palm Beach police were trying to get him done, but the state attorney only went for him on a prostitution charge. Bear in mind, these are underage girls. How on earth could you be getting him on a prostitution charge? It made no sense. And that was the first in a line of many hurdles that they had to clear to try and bring this bloke to justice. Now, the police didn't accept that, so they handed the case upwards to the FBI. And not long after that, the FBI stopped cooperating with the police. And I've watched interviews with the police officers, and they're like, that's never happened in like 40 years of me working with the cops. So they couldn't understand why they'd been been phased out of nowhere. And it's very clear that some of these FBI agents weren't operating in the right way, right? Some of them were emailing back and forwards to his legal team, like, here's my Gmail and we'll meet for a meeting in a hotel, as if it was all pally-pally. And the federal prosecutor negotiated a deal with Epstein behind the backs of the victims. These victims who've given all their accounts and they've dug up their most traumatic memories. Doesn't matter. We're doing a deal with him. And he was allowed to plead guilty to 2 prostitution charges, get off with a very soft punishment. And these girls we're talking about were in high school. What the fuck are we talking about? It was so corrupt from early on with Epstein. The corruption we're seeing now, it's been there since day one. Something's not right about this. He did 13 months in the private wing of a jail when he was doing like work release as well. They give him the most cushy, easy sentence possible. And the key was they granted him full immunity to those victims, so they couldn't like come back and get him again after that. And they basically handed out get out of jail free cards to his co-conspirators, named and unnamed. And as far as I'm aware, this sort of thing was unheard of. Which, if you do believe that he was feeding intelligence to high up agencies in government, maybe that's why, right? Like, why are you getting this kind of treatment? It does not make sense. And it may also link to the powerful people he was supplying these girls to, or he was getting the girls from as well, because apparently on his birthday, friend of his sent over multiple 12-year-old girls to his apartment. This is from another victim who said that she's seen that. So obviously this deal was saving Epstein, but who knows who else it was saving. And the bottom line is he got away with it. He got a slap on the wrist, did a couple of months in jail, but fuck me, he got off with nothing compared to what he should have got. And it was only when an expose was done on him in 2019 by the Miami Herald, which went into detail of all of the shit he'd actually been up to, which gained massive attention online. People actually decided we got to fucking do something about this. So he got arrested again, and this is where you see all of the footage of him being interviewed and all the questioning and him denying everything. And before he could even go to trial, he mysteriously was killed. Sorry, committed suicide. Sorry about that. It's easy to mix it up, isn't it? And it does feel like when you look back at the way the events folded, they tried to save him the first time. The second time, they're like, we got to get rid of this guy. Because in the event, he was helping very powerful people. The way out of that situation is to tell on them all and then get yourself a fucking deal. And when I say he was well connected, like when they first raided his house, when it was an unexpected investigation happening on him that he didn't know about, his house was cleaned. And the police said, we knew he knew before we went there, and he'd made sure that it was spotless. Now, we know he was very close to people like Bill Clinton, who was on record of being on flights to his island, and one of his other powerful friends was Donald Trump. So we're talking 2 presidents he was very close with that we know of. And before the legal issues, Trump actually was quoted on saying, I've known him for 15 years. Terrific guy. Jesus, that is just terrible, isn't it? He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, said Trump. And what's funny is Trump later said that he was never a fan of his. And I'm just like, when you were his mate, you were saying the opposite, pal. And one of Jeffrey Epstein's most well-known victims was Virginia Giuffre, the girl who was pictured with Prince Andrew. Well, she actually worked for Donald Trump at the Mar-a-Lago resort that he owns when she was recruited by Jeffrey Epstein. And she said, I was trafficked by Epstein and handed out to his powerful friends, politicians. She said it all. And like, you can sit there and go, well, you know, what's your line? Prince Andrew paid her over 10 million to settle the lawsuit with her. Now, what's mad is she died earlier this year, and you can see here, this apparently was from the impact of a bus crash that apparently collided with her car. She claimed at the time that she had days to live. From what we've been told, she did survive that. However, about a month later, she died of apparent suicide at her home at the age of 41. Some people have said online that she shot herself. I don't know. That's not been confirmed anywhere. I just read it. Now, her father released a statement discounting the suicide explanation and posted that someone got to her. That is fucking mind-blowing. When you consider everything that's coming out now and everything that she'd been saying at the time, it is wild. And she is just one of many women who have been saying, I was trafficked by Epstein and that multiple other men were involved and that he did have clients. He did have them. And the fact that the royal fucking family paid her out is pretty darn solid proof of it, if you ask me. Like, I've never said darn before in my life. That felt really good. I felt like I was in court. So naturally, us, the public, have been wondering for a good few years, at what fucking point are we going to find out who the hell these bastards were? And when Elon Musk put this tweet out, time to drop the really big bomb, Donald Trump is in the Epstein Files, that is the real reason they've not been made public. At the time, it was like, whoa, like it was beef, right? He was pissed off at Donald for multiple reasons, and that was something that came out. But you kind of have to look back at it now and think, that's a mad accusation to make without any proof of it. For a man like Elon Musk, right, you might not like him, fair enough, but I think we can all admit he's a pretty intelligent guy. For him to accuse someone who he's been singing the praises of for months on end of being involved in a list of predators, would he have done that with just zero knowledge, zero proof, and just purely speculation, just to throw something out there to hurt Donald Trump? It just doesn't feel logical to me. And I feel like Elon Musk rolls in pretty high circles. I think he knew Ghislaine Maxwell back in the day. He knew of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some knowledge of what has gone on. And what really got me thinking was Donald Trump's response, or the lack thereof. Donald Trump is a ballsy guy, right? You have a fucking pop at him, he comes out swinging every time. It's part of the reason why people have respected him over the years. But do you know what he did? He was as quiet as a church mouse. He never even addressed the fucking post. How can someone as one of the biggest voices on the planet, one of the richest men easily, accuse you of something as serious as that and you not even dignify it with a response? How is that possible when you're the president? This is the same Donald Trump who sued a media company just because they edited an interview of Kamala Harris to make her look less dumb. This man is not afraid to take you to fucking court, and yet he did nothing. He sat silent. That, for me, before we even talk about any of this other shit, the fact that there's so many photographs of Donald Trump, the fact that he said he was a great guy, that is fucking damning. We know for a fact that Donald Trump was on record on being on the Epstein planes, and we also know that Epstein had 14 different contact numbers for Donald Trump. Now, guess who has it within their power to release the Epstein files after being accused of being in them, to completely exonerate himself? Donald Trump. And he said he would. He said he would. And now, a word from our sponsors. Have you had a random phone call in the last couple of months? The ones where there's a random number and they're trying to sell you something, or even worse, trying to con you? Well, that's not a coincidence. The chances are your data has actually been compromised. It can happen to anyone. And if you want to take control of your data, check out the Incognito link in the description below. You can get 60% off your annual plan on me. Now, the reason this is actually an issue is online there's these shady guys called data brokers. They go and scrape the internet for your personal details, your email, full name, address, even your political affiliation. And they then sell that to marketing firms or third parties. And it's gotten to a point where victims have come forward and said that they've been scammed by people using AI voices on them to trick them into giving up their money. And of course, they go after the most vulnerable people, which is why this might be something you want to recommend to others as well. They're always offering high interest loans or sketchy financial products. And this is where Incognito will come in to protect you. They reach out to these data brokers and demand on your behalf that your information be removed from their database. And they don't just stop at that. They are constantly policing the internet to make sure that your details never go back on. So if you're someone who likes privacy, this is the one for you. And there's even a custom removals feature where basically if your details end up on any website that you're not happy with it being on, you can put the link into their system and then their privacy team will investigate it and work hard to get it removed for you. Having Incognito is like having your own personal data removal squad, and they will tackle the internet's trickiest corners for you. All you got to do is click the link in the description, create your Incognito account, and tell them whose data you want removed. You then grant them permission to work on your behalf. Then you just sit back, relax, and they will keep you updated along the way. And the best bit is it's risk-free for 30 days, so you can try it out, and if it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back your personal data now. Click the link in the description below, go to incognito.com/Geordie, and when you use the code Geordie, that's all block capitals, all one word, you'll get 60% off your annual plan. So big love to Incognito for looking after us, but for now, enjoy the video.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know.
Would you declassify them? Yeah. Well, less so, because there may be some phony stuff in there. It's a yes or a no, mate. I now look at it and I think you didn't want to say no because you don't want to look like you've got something to hide. And then that, oh, well, there may be phony stuff in there. For me, that's self-preservation. That's him saying some of that might be false, Like, well, why are you saying that? Again, it looks more and more like Donald Trump is in some way involved in this Epstein shit. It might be a little, it might be a lot. He's certainly making me think it's quite a bit, though, because if you had nothing to lose, well, then get them out there then. And yet, yet this is what we got from the FBI on the Epstein case. The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as a part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. And they also confirmed that he took his own life in prison by saying it's supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time. Anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located would have been captured by this footage. Well, well, well. So what they're basically saying is, don't worry, we've looked at it all. You don't need to see it. You don't even want to see it. It's such a long file. Just don't even bother yourself. We'll just give you the lowdown and then just take my word for it. Remember with the JFK files, not long ago, they released a whole bunch of information where we could sit and look through fucking file after file after file. It was complete transparency, that. This one is just more like, trust me, bro. Don't worry about it. It's fucking mental, this. And I really like this tweet someone posted about it. There is no client list. There is no client list anymore. It's just so stupid. That's how it is, though, isn't it? That's what we're living now. And the best bit about this for me, as someone who just wants the truth to be out there, is with certain conspiracies, whether it be 9/11 or the moon landing, people have got loads of different opinions about what happened. This is one of the first times I've ever seen the entirety of the internet unite and just say, you're talking bullshit. We know the client list existed. Do you know why? Because you lot fucking told us. Here's a little interview from Patel a couple of years back before he became head of the FBI, where his tune was a little bit different back then.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if release the names, right?
Maybe it's not just Bill Clinton who's lobbying to stop this from being posted. Maybe it's big politicians on both sides. And let's not forget Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who said she had the list on her fucking desk.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So there was no list. It's just ridiculous. We've got over 1,000 victims. A dead guy. Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail for trafficking. We got a royal family member paying out for the services that he gained from Jeffrey Epstein. It's so obvious. That was an admission of guilt in the minute he paid up. And yet we've got no client list out of nowhere. Right after Elon Musk points the finger and says, you, Donald Trump motherfucker, are on the list. And then the list just disappears. Unfucking-leavable. And after the news broke about the no client list bullshit, Donald Trump did actually post to his Truth Social, bigging up Director Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and basically saying they're now back to cleaning up America's streets, totally ignoring the fire that's going on around his reputation, yeah. And really just leaving a lot more questions than answers, which I think is what he has to do, because clearly he can't fucking answer them. For a kickoff, what the fuck was this? Remember these influencers who were handed the Epstein case file? Like, what the hell was that all about? That was clearly a tactic to just simmer people down and be like, oh, they are giving away the Epstein files. This is going to be out there any minute now. And it was just a stalling tactic. And remember the news story about Jeffrey Epstein's prison, on how the guards fell asleep, the camera stopped working, pretty much everything that could allow anything to happen to Jeffrey Epstein happened. Well, it turns out the CCTV, actually, they've got it working again. They've released 10 hours of surveillance footage of the heart of Jeffrey Epstein's prison. You can see people walking around, you know what I mean? And like 10 whole hours is what they're saying. It's like, this proves no one came in or out, nothing could have happened. The problem is, it took the internet about 2 fucking minutes to realize that there was at least a minute missing from the CCTV footage. You see down here, it says 11:58 p.m. and then it skips to 12:01 a.m. Now, is it possible in that minute someone could have came in and done whatever they needed to do and then got out? Yeah, absolutely. And a prisoner who was in that cell has actually done an interview saying it would have been physically impossible to take your own life in that cell given the means that you had at the time.
Jeffrey Epstein would have to be a magician to try to hang himself in that cell. I was in that cell. there's no way there's nothing on the ceiling. The bedpost is this high. I couldn't even go to a restroom without them walking back and forth and having me on camera. You know, there's no way he committed suicide.
Ironically, I've actually had that guy on my podcast, former mafia guy. Great episode if you haven't seen it. And as much as this episode has been a lot about looking deeper into the darkness of the constant cover-up that's going on around Epstein, I do also want to touch on what the victims said happened.
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
Very powerful words from that lady, and she mentions Ghislaine Maxwell. I just want to let you see what Donald Trump had to say about Ghislaine. Obviously, he knew Jeffrey and Ghislaine almost as a couple on the scene back in the day, and she was so involved in getting these girls in all of the abuse that they went through.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
Why the fuck would Donald Trump be sending a message to Ghislaine Maxwell like, I wish her well? If he is involved in this and he's worried about someone like Ghislaine, blowing the whistle and saying Donald Trump was involved, this one was involved, that was involved, that would make a lot of sense why you would say, I wish her well. Other than that, I can't think of a single fucking reason. Now, Donald Trump's press secretary has been fielding the questions after the blowback from all of this, and it didn't go well.
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
Release the fucking files. Don't just tell us. Show us.
They put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption.
Well, of course, you can redact certain things. Like you can make sure that certain things aren't released for that level of sensitivity naturally. But you're giving nothing. This is the excuse. It's a very clever way out of it, though.
But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Absolute bullshit. Elon Musk responds to the news with the, oh, look, it's no one's been arrested o'clock again, with the official Jeffrey Epstein arrest counter. I can't come to any other conclusion about this than the FBI telling us that no one powerful was being blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. More than likely means that he was blackmailing the most powerful people on earth, and we're never going to know about it. Even if Donald Trump isn't protecting himself, he's probably protecting people who are even more powerful than him. Because you know Trump, if they were below him, they'd be under the fucking bus. That's the way he is. And looking at this, right, whatever anyone thinks of Trump, I said that I thought he would be better than Kamala Harris. He probably still is, to be fair. She was a fucking moron. But still, you can't let this sort of shit slide. If you're a Donald Trump guy, if you're a MAGA guy, you can't be cool with this. This is the self-destruct button for Donald Trump, in my opinion. And I think he would only push that if he had no other choice, and that's why I think he probably is in these files. So how's that for a right-wing grifter, yeah? After all of the shit I took just because I said he was better than fucking Kamala Harris. But like I say, I've always said, whatever I think the truth is, I'll say it. I think that this is an absolute disaster for America, in my opinion, and it just shows that really, the government will just more than happily lie to you. And we've always known that, but like, this is the most obvious lie ever. And they're like, yeah, you got us. We're just going to move past it. Sorry. But let me know what you think is really going on in the comments below. What conspiracy do you have about all of this? Because it's absolutely mind-blowing, in my opinion. Don't forget to hit the like button. Stay subscribed to the True Geordie YouTube channel. I'll see you on the next one.